Okay, welcome everybody to today's Tai Lopez podcast radio program. I'm here with Tom Bilyeu, and this is pretty cool. We're going to be talking about how he built...
Sorry, can we start again? That level was low.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Zach. Take two. All right, everybody, welcome to the Tai Lopez show. I've got a very special guest, Tom Bilyeu. We're going to be talking about how he built a snack protein bar empire, 1.5 million bars per day you're moving. Is that right?
That's true.
1.5. How many countries are you in?
Ooh, God, it was like 92 when I left. So I haven't been there for about a year. But when I left, it was 92. I'm going to guess they've got more now.
92. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of business tips. We have my cousin Maya here. We have Zach running sound effects.
Nice.
Zach likes to give himself sound effects mostly. But all right, we're going to go live here and then cut back to this. We're going to be giving away some cash and a brand new. This is a big MacBook. Okay, here we go. We'll first got to take a thumbnail here. So give it a smile. All right, good. And now we're going. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is up? What's up, everybody? I'm here giving away a laptop and cash on my podcast. You're behind the scenes. I'm here with Tom Bilyeu. You've seen these Quest bars probably. He's selling, his company that he started is moving 1.5 million of these per day. So if you ever thought about building a business, specifically in health, or really in any business, we're going to be going into a ton of details on, practical steps, how you can build something similar. I'm going to be giving away cash to people who listen. And at the end, if you listen in, one of the things Tom says I'm going to ask it as a question. If you answer correctly, one of you is going to get a brand new MacBook Air. All right. This is a MacBook Air 13-inch laptop, 1.8 gigahertz dual core Intel. So let's jump right. I'm also joined by my cousin Maya. Say hello, Maya.
Hello.
And Zach. Oops.
Zach gets a lot more claps than everybody.
Zach runs the sound effects for himself. So let's just jump into this and let's give some practical tips. Let's pretend this was the end of the podcast at the beginning. If today was your last day on planet Earth, you were going with Elon Musk to Mars, and do you have kids?
I do not.
Okay. Let's say you had a nephew or somebody you cared about, and you wanted to leave them like a 1-paragraph summary of what it took for you to take a business from 0 to 1.5 million bars sold per day of these different Quest bars, protein bars. What would that 1 paragraph say? Like the cutting right to the chase, like here's what you need to know to build a business. Here's what you need to know to market it and grow it, but as summarized as possible.
All right, here it goes. What you build your self-esteem around matters. Most people build their self-esteem around being right, having the right answer, being good, being smart, and all of those things are a death trap. And so, dear nephew, I guess, don't make that mistake. And instead, build your self-esteem around being the learner, being the person that's willing to admit that they're wrong at any time, faster than anybody else, to be willing to sit at the feet of anybody and learn and take a good idea from wherever it comes. And if you build not only your self-esteem around that, which is very anti-fragile, because if somebody tries to attack you and tell you that you're stupid, you're like, yes, indeed, awesome. Just tell me in what way, because once I know how I'm stupid, then I can go shore that up. And I don't build any value in myself around being smart anyway, so that doesn't matter to me. But now I get a skill, and that skill is usable, and that usability is what I'm all about. And then on top of that, it really is the only way that you're ever going to really reach your full potential. And for me, the very meaning of life is to find out how many skills you can acquire that have utility and then put that utility to the test in service of something bigger than yourself.
So it's almost like an adventurous approach to business. It's like I tweeted the other day, and it kind of went viral. I said, one of the ways to not be so stressed out is to see life as an adventure versus accomplishment. The second you see exact accomplishment of a goal as your primary objective, you oftentimes don't get it, and then you fall apart, and then you feel stressed. But if you see the goal, like you're saying, in other words, is your goal is not always to be right. Your goal is the adventure of figuring out what's right, no matter who you have to ask. And oftentimes, your first idea almost always is not your best idea in business. What did Quest Bar look like at the beginning? So like we're see the end result of this hyper successful business that you founded, selling, millions of these in over what do you say, 70 countries or 90 countries?
90 countries, yeah.
What did it look like at the beginning? Did you instantly have this exact idea, like it'll look like this, it'll have these flavors, or it'll be at this price point, or did that evolve? What was the original idea? What did it look like?
So we knew it was going to be a protein bar, so that much really was right from the jump, and we knew that it had to be something that was metabolically real. So that was our whole thing. It has to be metabolically advantageous. And so we had built a successful company before this, but it was in software. And I actually went in and quit. So I had worked my way from copywriter to chief marketing officer. I'd earned equity in the company just through busting ass, quite frankly. And I'm in this now by that point for like almost 7 years. I'm burned out. I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. On paper, I'm a multimillionaire. And I'm just like, I'm so fucking miserable. Like, get me out of here. And so I went in and quit. And I was like, I'm living the cliche of money can't buy happiness. So guys, here's your equity back. If I don't cross the finish line, I shouldn't get anything for this. So you're never going to hear from me again if you sell the company.
You gave your shares back.
Literally. And I was like, here it is. Because I was leaving, right? So it was like, hey, go do your thing. I wish you the best. I just can't keep doing this anymore. I need to do something where I feel alive. And in doing that, they didn't want me to quit. And they said, hey, look, we could do this without you, but we don't want to. That let me reconnect to something other than the money, which was at that point in my life, I needed that so badly because I had been chasing money just like straight up Scrooge McDuck style for like, at that point, like a very long time. 7 years, a long ass time.
Scrooge McDuck?
So like literally
the Disney version?
Yeah, just fantasies of like swimming in my money, right? Like that, just money.
Did you ever put on your bed and throw it and like lie down?
Did you do Wolf of Wall Street stuff?
No, I wasn't crazy like that. It was, for me, I used to say I would do anything that I needed to be successful within my code of ethics. So it's like, there's just certain things that I believe in and willing to do. And that may have been part of the frustration, right? Is that trying to do something that you're not passionate about, but doing it always in a way that you can feel good about, like gets really hard. So I wanted to tap into my passion. I wanted to do something not just in an ethical way, but that I was deeply passionate about, that I really cared about. And so that was my pitch back when they said, come work with us still. I said it would have to be something that's all about value creation. It would have to be something that we're deeply passionate about. It would have to be something that really addresses a big problem. And the words I was using at the time were, I want to be me. I want to be myself. So there was no social media at the time. There was like all of the things we think of now as authenticity.
What year did you start this?
The software company?
No, the Quest Bar, you quit. What was the year you quit?
Well, so I quit on the technology company, not Quest.
Okay, on the technology. When did you quit?
That would have been like 2007.
So just about 10 years ago. Let me stop you real quick. Let's do a cash giveaway. Who's paying attention? I'm going to PayPal $100 to the first person who answers this question. Sean Vosler just came live. What's up, man?
Sean Vosler.
Zach, is that your Sean Vosler voice?
No, I was like, hey, Sean Vosler.
All right, $100. Real simple question. How many countries did Tom say Quest bars are now sold in? Ready, set, go. Dun, dun. Is that right? 90.
No, 90.
No.
90's not right.
I think at one point.
Wait, don't say now. Don't say it now. What did you say there? Actually, let's do. I think these came at the same time. Oops. Now how come I can't see it? Oh, no, that one's wrong.
Dang, that's loud.
Cedric Lee on YouTube. You won it. You said 97. Isn't that what he's...
No, it was...
No, wait, we can't
Go
say
ahead.
it yet.
What did you say?
He said 92.
Correct.
Oh, 92. I could scroll back and see on YouTube.
Bad listeners on this podcast.
I failed my own test. I didn't see anybody. Nobody said 92. 92. All right,
there's one right there on your
bogus
screen.
question.
I don't know if that came in.
No, but
after
I'm gonna
you
do a
said
new question. I failed miserably. New one because it's disqualified because I said it accidentally. So, what year did he start Quest bars? Ready, set, go. New question. There we go. Corey McCauley on Twitter. 2007. If you didn't win, don't get butthurt. We're still going. We got more cash to give away. Look at this stack. You think $100 is gonna, make a dent in this bad boy? All right.
And just so that the history books are correct, that was the year I quit the technology company, not the year that we founded Quest. Quest was founded in 2010. But
all right, we're not redoing the test. You keep the money, man. You keep the money.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think where you went wrong talking about leaving the tech company is that you tried to work within a code of ethics.
That's what
he
he
should
did.
have gone
I have
outside of
mistake
his
number
code
one.
of ethics.
Yeah, if you were seeking happiness within a code of ethics, I think you're going to have to like let those go.
Is that what you would tell if you were at Last Day on Planet, you would tell people to abandon their code of ethics?
Yeah, because what's the point?
All right.
That is a strategy, and that's a strategy employed by a distressing number of people.
I'm only joking. I would not encourage that strategy.
Zach, yes.
I'm just going for a laugh.
There, you got it.
We need different sound effects. You can't always do the clap for yourself. Be creative. What else do we have there, Zach?
Oh my God.
Not the burp.
That
That's
is
gonna think
disgusting.
people are gonna think I actually burped. What's a good one?
Well, I was thinking for myself to change
is
it
escalating.
up.
All right,
Really
I got to
quick.
take that thing away from
Gross.
Zach. Okay, back to 2007. You quit. There's a 3-year lapse. But what happened in those 3 years? Were you just relaxing?
Yeah, not quite. So they convinced me to come back, and we all agree that we're going to set a benchmark for the software company. If we hit the benchmark, then we'll keep rocking it. And if we don't hit the benchmark, we'll sell it and start this thing that's all going to be about value and passion and all of that. We failed to hit the benchmarks, so we didn't sell the company right away, but we immediately began building out what would eventually become Quest Nutrition and get launched in 2010. But there was, like 2+ years of behind the scenes, like working on the formulation, that kind of stuff before we officially launched.
So do you think people should there's different schools of thought in business. There's the quick launch, lean startup approach, very famous book, Lean Startup, where you basically kind of what Facebook does. Mark Zuckerberg says, grow so fast, you break a lot of things, you're launching before you're ready. Now, there's other people that disagree with that formula. For example, Snapchat, Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snapchat, just recently went on, and there was an article about him saying he doesn't believe that. He likes to make sure it's really good and beta tested. And it sounds like you might be a little more in that school of thought of going slower.
Well, so
Because it took you 2 years to formulate it.
Yeah, but I will say that we were still launching what I'd call a minimum viable product. So it was hard as hell to manufacture. That was problem number one. Problem number two, we didn't have the ideal fiber source, so that was something that we changed in like the first 6 months after
What
launch.
is the fiber source now?
So now, in
about
fact,
Quest bars.
it depends on when you bought the bars, but we used
These
two.
are 18 years old. So.
Nice. So
These are 18 years old.
we used two different ones. So originally it was actually we've used three now, but the one that is used in this one is soluble corn fiber.
Soluble corn fiber. For those of you just listening in, we're talking to Tom Bilyeu, started Quest protein bars. 1.5 million a day are being sold. They have a lot of people will know these bars if you work out or in a gym. They've got 1 gram of sugar, but they taste like they have more
2
sugar.
grams. This one has 2 grams.
1 or 2 grams. It's not much. A bottle of Sprite has about 40 grams of sugar.
In America. In Europe.
In
it's
America,
only
yeah. In
20
Europe,
grams.
they cut it. It's not as good. And then, of course, what do these have in protein? They got 15 grams? 20 grams. So they got a lot, pretty high protein. 20 is fairly high. I'm drinking a protein shake. Most protein shakes that you have are between 20 and 30 grams of protein. So what do you think, not to bounce around here, but somebody was asking on the live, the fiber component, has that been a big thing that differentiates your bars, not just the protein and low sugar?
It certainly did in the beginning. So in the beginning, nobody was really using a liquid fiber like we were using. Everybody was using, a liquid sugar or glycerin or something like that to make the bar pliable enough to run through the equipment, which is really like, man, you want to get into the nitty gritty of like how we made this thing work.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm sure that there were a lot of people that had a formulation similar to ours, but when they went to the co-manufacturers, they said it can't be made. And it's actually true. Like that bar couldn't be made on traditional equipment. But what we ended up doing was realizing that it's only because all the equipment that exists that you could buy sort of off the shelf, if you will, had grown up in the world where everyone's using liquid sugar. So if you say, well, we can make it if we make new equipment, then suddenly the doors open and nobody else had done that. So we became our own manufacturer.
So you made your own equipment.
Correct.
You had to like vertically integrate. And you're using for sugar, I see you're not using xylitol.
No.
You're using erythritol?
Erythritol in some of the bars.
Why do you like that above? So these, if you don't know, are basically sweet tasting things that don't spike up your glycemic. I mean, they don't have a messed up glycemic index.
Response, yeah.
Your body, my friend, Dr. Fresco, that you guys know, he basically, did you see for a month, he took a glucose meter and he literally had it embedded in his stomach with a needle. Zach would love that. To go for 1 month with a needle
For
in his
1 month, he
stomach.
walked around with a needle in his stomach.
How
Literally. Do you move around?
Well, it
with
was like
a
kind of
needle?
under skin,
It's
but
subcutaneous, so it's
Yeah.
not like jabbed into his actual stomach.
it's not like a
but-
rabies shot.
Oh, I see. So
But it
it's
hurt.
It's
a
You would
needle.
a needle.
under the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
Zach,
Kinda like an
needle.
IV.
let me
Zach
tell you,
loves needles.
Zach will faint if that happens. But he walked around and everything he ate, he could see. And you know what? It's exactly kind of what science says. It's like if you eat a Snickers bar, it goes boom. And there's something, I've been testing my blood. I'm working on a book. I can't release it for 2 years because it's 4 years of me testing my blood once a month and trying every known supplement. And there's something called your A1C score, which basically looks back at the last 3 months of your kind of this is a layman's explanation, but it looks back and it tells you what your average glucose level has been. And for a lot of people in America, it's insane. They project in the next 20 years, 50% of American children under 18 years old, okay, will be either diabetic or pre-diabetic.
That's crazy.
Now, your bar, let's talk real quick, not to bounce around,
Zach,
but I
are
like
you
to
taking
kind of.
notes about that?
Zach's taking notes.
Well, for possible questions.
Let's talk about the sugar.
Nice.
Why is the sugar? And by the way, this is not an advertisement for Quest. They did not pay me or anything, but I'm genuinely interested, and a lot of people are. Why does this approach to sugar work better? There's so many snack bars out there, and some of them have insane amount of sugar. Some of them like 10, 20 grams of sugar. So what is this specific approach? How does it work?
So our thing was we wanted to make something that tasted like it had sugar but didn't have sugar. And so the only way to do that is to have some sort of either natural or artificial sweetener. There's no way around that. As yummy as nut butters are, they don't taste like candy. So we did want to sweeten them with something, and that was that one that you listed is a natural sweetener, but we also use some artificial sweeteners as well, and just they're hundreds of times more sweet than sugar. So you put very, very, like vanishingly small amounts in there, and
Yep.
it tastes very, very sweet. So they're very palatable. The reason that we used erythritol, the one that you read, that one specifically does not have the GI distress that a lot of the other
Glycemic index.
well, the
Or gastro-
atols that you listed,
Yeah.
right? So people will get bloating, cramping, pain, diarrhea, whatever from other ones. That one is, most people can tolerate it.
Have you had that, Zach? Bloating.
Gas?
Bloating.
Yeah.
What about xylitol? Versus erythritol.
Yeah, literally other than erythritol, I wouldn't mess with any of those. So I had a horrific experience with lactitol, if you've ever heard of that one.
That
so
one didn't even
this was
sound
before
good.
I got into nutrition, and I had just started a low-carb diet, and I found these Reese's peanut butter cups that were made with lactitol. And I didn't know what that
that
was.
like
So
milk?
I'm like, this is amazing. So my friend and I split a half bag, and we mowed through this.
You
thing.
ate a
That is
bag
too
of
many
something
in
new.
A
general.
half bag in my defense. And the level of cramping was unreal. It hurt so bad. So yeah, I learned that lesson in a very visceral way. So you got to be very careful.
Literally.
Yeah.
$100. We're going to do a PayPal. How many grams of sugar does this bar, I said how many grams does this specific Quest bar have in it? Right there. Well, let's do
it's
not
right
Twitter.
there.
Twitter won last time. Let's do Instagram. Instagram, $100. What is it? Someone tell I'm from Russia.
That is not the answer.
That's not the answer. 20? No. 2? No. White boy bitch said 250. No.
That would be
3?
a
No.
lot of
A lot of sugar.
That would be
Come
too much
on.
sugar.
0? No. Zach, new sound effect. 2.
That's the
It's
only
not
way-
2. It's not 2, and it's not 3. There we go. Lundy Dewport. As you can see on the back, it's 1 gram of sugars. in the form of erythritol. So, okay, let's go back to this. I was following a comment here live. So we're back. You're 2 years into the business. Between 2008, 2009, you're manufacturing your own equipment. How do you decide today's the day to launch? It's 2010. Let's go.
So the good news is we were doing it online, so it was a relatively soft launch. Nobody knew who we were, and we put it out there, ran some ads against it, with taglines like the first protein bar is not a candy bar in disguise, like things like that, trying to get people to click over. But really the gains came when we started going to bodybuilding competitions.
Oh,
and
really?
Getting people, yeah, because they were all like, oh, I don't eat protein bars. They're all junk. And we said, look, read the ingredients on it and try this one. And so they did, and we had a huge influencer push, even before the word influencer was really being kicked around. And just went hard after athletes that were physical culturalists, people that would really care about what they were eating, understand what they were eating. Many of them were already testing their blood levels. So we knew if they get it and they like it and adopt it, that this could really blow up.
So do you think for somebody listening that for many businesses, besides even the snack bar, that the influencer route is the new way to launch? I mean, it's not even new. They were using celebrities back, Coca-Cola and Pepsi in the 1970s and 80s. But do you still think that, like, since that worked for you, if you were building another business, would you go down that route very early in the business?
Yeah, no question. No question. If you have a product that really delivers value to people's lives and you have something that's going to speak to a given niche and there's an influencer in that niche that's going to understand and actually use your product and actually their life is going to be improved by it, then they're going to sing its praises both because they have a partnership with you and then other times they're just using it in their life. And so they can really authentically get behind it and talk about it. And I think in forever, everybody has always taken word of mouth over what you see in an advertisement or something. So influencer marketing is essentially word of mouth from someone you trust.
Did you all pay them ever, or was it always free?
In the beginning, it was always free. It was just product. We would send them free product and ask them to talk about it. And then as we grew, then we ultimately were paying some people.
So are you still active now?
No, not at Quest.
When did you kind of bow out?
Almost exactly a year ago.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Fast forward. For somebody watching, what is the end game besides helping the world, but like just practically, did you make the decision, I want to replace myself with a CEO, I want to sell you don't have to get into the exact private details, but what was the mindset? Were you bored? Were you ready for something new? What was it?
I always knew that there were going to be two things that I would do with my life. One was addressing the pandemic of the body. Maya and I were talking about this earlier. And the other is the pandemic of the mind. And originally I'd hoped Quest would be my forever company and I was never going to need to sell it. And I learned a very painful and powerful brand lesson, which is that when people think of you as the protein bar guy and you start making a show all about the mind, everybody's going, what on earth are you doing? And, my partners were going to have to go on that very long, very expensive journey with me of expanding the brand. We didn't necessarily share the vision on the importance of introducing the mind to the brand. The consumers were resistant to that becoming a part of the brand.
Who likes minds?
Right?
Yes.
It's so crazy.
Is it publicly known who bought you? Or is that?
We didn't sell. So
okay, you did not
there
sell.
were 3 equal partners. So we took a small investment, but because the company was valued at over $1 billion, it just like from a raw dollar standpoint, it was fucking massive.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to sell.
I had the cash where I didn't have to stay. I didn't have any sort of pressures. And my wife and I just asked, do we buy an island and retire and just not worry about this anymore? Or do we double down and build something new? And that's where impact theory came in, which is meant to address what I consider the pandemic of the mind.
So going back to this kind of practical thing, you've got 2 other business partners.
Yep.
For someone listening who has a business partner, what are some things you learned that are important, the do's and do nots of finding a business partner and then growing and staying peaceably, everybody happy with each other?
So it is like a marriage, exactly like a marriage. So just like you need to date and fall in love and go through a courtship phase with the person who's going to become your significant other, you need to do the same thing in business. And my partners and I had a chance to get to know each other even before business was involved at all. And then they originally hired me as a copywriter, so really got to see what each of us were like. And
that's how you started. They hired you.
So that was back at the technology company. They hired me as a copywriter, and they said, hey, look, this is a startup. Don't think of yourself as a copywriter. Being a copywriter is just the tuition you have to pay. But hey, we're entrepreneurs. So if there's anything you want to learn, we'll help you. And I took them seriously. They said, you can have any job in the company you want. You just have to become the right person for that job. So you got to learn the skills. And I just put my head down for, whatever.
7 years.
Yeah, that was by the time that I quit, but certainly didn't stop. But by that point, I'd already made my way to chief marketing officer and stuff. So, but I literally didn't take a day off for like 6 years. It was crazy.
You did the Bill Gates formula. Let me do a quick Snapchat. I want to say, let's just talk. I might ask you to say that thing again, that quick summary. Okay, let's get this bad boy up here. I'm here with Tom Bilyeu. He founded Quest Bars, one of the founders. They're now a $1 billion company and selling, 1.5 million snack bars a day?
Yep.
What's the number one thing people need to know you've learned in business?
Always be learning. Always be learning. That's just the truth of it all.
And what were you saying about your self-esteem? That was interesting.
Yeah, what you build your self-esteem around matters. So that was the biggest breakthrough for me. I found myself arguing for an idea that was actually stupid and dumb and moved me away from my goals, but I wanted to be right so badly. Even though I knew it was the wrong answer, I just kept fighting for it. And in that moment, I had a crisis because I was like, do I want to get rich, which was my stated goal at the time, or do I want to be right? Because I'm acting like I want to be right, but I'm saying that I want to be rich. So in trying to reconcile those two, I realized I needed to feel good about myself, but I could change what I felt good about myself for. And so I switched that to being the learner.
It's better to be rich than always right.
100%.
Better to be happy than always
also
right.
True. I mean, yeah, no question.
Awesome. Oh, that was perfect. We used the whole thing. Maya, can you caption that with a couple sentences? Thank you. All right, so we're back. I'm going to do a quick $100 giveaway. So here's the question. How long ago, and we're going to do this for Facebook, how long ago did Tom step back from Quest Bars and kind of take a break? He said it. How long ago? This is for, by the way,
I see some right
Facebook.
answers coming through
Yeah,
already.
but don't say it, because we're on Facebook.
Look at, we're finally getting right answers. This is so exciting.
2 years ago? No. Brian Jimenez? No. Albert said 10 years ago.
Wow.
Zach, the sound's killing me. Thank you. Once isn't. No, how long ago did he kind of retire from the business? You guys are confusing the question with when he started. Max, 3 years. God, you guys are not listening. Almost 1 year to the day. Angel Shelburne.
That is correct.
Women listen better than men sometimes. Guys are like,
some-
10 years ago.
Sometimes or all the time.
Maya, what do you think? Let's ask Maya this. Maya, what's your experience? Maya's kind of one of the CEOs of my company. What's your experience, men versus women? What's better about women than men in general?
Well, business-wise, I think that women tend to execute better. So I think guys are possibly more creative, but as far as when it comes down to doing the actual detail stuff and practical things that you need to actually put your business into play, I think women seem
What
to
about
be better at
events?
executing.
Organizing events?
No.
Whenever you
guys.
if you guys ever do a conference or a seminar and you put men in charge, it's going to be a disaster. People are going to show up at the wrong conference center. The chairs will be backwards facing the wall. Trust me. I honestly think, a little side note, I do think that you should have a company that has about 50-50 men and women. Not because necessarily of political correctness, but because humans are wired differently. Men and women are wired differently at a hormonal level. Doesn't mean men are better or whatever, but trust me, I've done blood tests on Maya, my cousin. I did testosterone test on myself. I've been doing it for 2 years every month. Maya did her testosterone. Her total testosterone was 30.
28.
28. Mine was 1,270.
Ty was like, Maya, your test
I
is
was
wrong.
like,
You
her
need
test
to
is
send
wrong.
it."
Let's mail it back. And then the lab is like, no, women don't have a lot of total testosterone.
Max is 83 for women.
Yeah, max is, I mean,
Standard.
some women have more, like female bodybuilders. Some women are on the juice. But I'm not sure if a woman had 1,200 testosterone. First of all,
Should be lifting weights for Russia in the Olympics.
no, you will have a full beard. So if that's a goal, if you
You
want
know what?
to be,
My second grade teacher, I guess, then had a lot of testosterone.
had a beard?
She had a goatee.
Wow.
She was, in her
Are you
60s,
serious?
late 60s, but I'm just making a joke about an old teacher. It's not a true story. But you know what? I actually do. I only want female editors for any projects, film projects. I think females make the best editors. There's a lot of classic films that were edited by women.
Why do you think?
Jaws, I think
Really?
Citizen Kane.
Is Jaws your reference? You were
Well, it's
Yeah.
iconic. It changed the trajectory
only female
of films.
editors? It was only female
But
editors?
I would no. I mean, there's good male editors. I'm just saying I think women make the best editors because they're more empathetic. And so if you're trying to tell a story and get people involved emotionally, I think that stands to reason that women.
Thank you for that, Zach. That was very
Well, I
interesting.
think I'd kill time while you were
What?
texting.
We like that. The viewership went in half. Okay, no, I'm just joking. Zach, I know how to hurt Zach's. Zach's self-esteem is basically predicated on how many people laugh. One of the someone said Zach's hat is dumb. They don't like your hat.
Wait, why? What is it? Let me see.
It's Cat's Deli. All right, let's get back to business. So influencer marketing was huge for you. Let's talk about a physical product. Some of you want to sell something that you need to get in stores, and you guys don't just sell on your website. You're also in stores, 7-Eleven.
85% of our revenue or more
is from other distributors. So distribution, you can have a product, you can create it. A lot of the businesses I have, I'm able to distribute it through websites that we control and we do the marketing, but there's plenty of other ways to run a business. You're an expert in getting stores to distribute. How do you get in? If somebody here has a snack bar or a drink or something, you can't just go to 7-Eleven and Walmart and go, yo, sell my stuff. Because one of the keys is if you get shelf space at a 7-Eleven or Walmart, it's going to boost your sales. I don't care what your marketing is, just the fact that you're in 1,000 stores. So how do you get the foot in the door for somebody listening who wants to launch any kind of physical product business?
All right, everybody, here we go. Lean forward because I'm going to break it down for you. And this is the gospel.
You guys should be paying
truth.
me this for this.
All right, so step number 1, you've got to make that killer product. Step number 2, get it out to influencers. The reason you want to do that is they're going to begin talking to their marketplace. Your product really has to add value, but if it does, let them do contests and things like get this man here. Instead of just giving away raw cash, you get them giving away your product, so it's going to cost you the cost of the product. Get it out there. Get a bunch of people doing that. Now, the magical thing that happens is people begin walking into the stores where they would expect it to be carried and asking, hey, where are the Quest bars or whatever your product is?
Huh.
Now, those stores at first, they don't think anything of it. Then 2 and 3 people a day are walking into the store. Then they start reaching out to you. Now, first, because of what Ty just said, they know they're the kingmaker. They know that just by putting this on their shelves, that they're going to generate revenue for you. And the contract is going to reflect that. And that's how you get fucked and you go out of business because you're selling at such a slim margin that you can't survive. So now, if that happens and you start growing rapidly, you realize, oh God, what we agreed to in terms of the profit margin doesn't work. I can't scale my business and now I'm stuck. That's where most businesses tap out. You live in the age of the internet. So what you're going to do is you're not going to fall prey to that very stupid mistake. And you're going to when they keep coming and asking to have your product, you're going to say no. And I'm going to say you're going to say no for about a year and you're going to have discipline because you could be making more money in the short term, but you're going to say no and you're going to keep building online. You're going to evangelize your customers so that they don't just like you, they absolutely love you. They love everything about you. They love your customer support. They love all the content that you're creating, everything. You're adding value to them at every touch point. Then a year later, we literally at Quest, we hired somebody to say no in a better way.
Really?
Because we were like, oh shit, we're beginning to damage the relationship with these guys who are like, dude, if you don't come on our shelves, we're never coming back to you. I want to be very clear about that. So we hired somebody just to say no in a nicer way.
How did they do that?
They had a long-standing relationship. So
Okay.
you end up hiring somebody that actually knows those customers. So it becomes the account manager. So for us, our big ones were like GNC, Vitamin Shop. And so you get people that have like 10, 15, 20-year relationship with that store. And you tell them, look, we're going to be saying yes, but we're going to need another 6, 12 months, whatever that is. But we want you to begin building that relationship. And the whole goal of all of this is to get to the point where you have power and you can negotiate a contract that's fair. Not so that you can be the dick. You just want something that's fair. And so because we were able to do that, we were able to scale our business. We didn't have to take in outside equity, even though we grew by 57,000% in our first 3 years alone.
That is
pretty
a
good.
good.
It's crazy. And this is in manufacturing, dude. So we were buying like just millions of dollars of equipment. We had hundreds of thousands of square feet, and it all happened in like a 5-year period. It was absolute madness. But we were only able to do that because we said no long enough to negotiate a contract that was fair.
How did you know to say no, though?
Because you run the math. It's like you look at it and go,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
my
not gonna
margin
work.
here is like 12%. Like
Right.
I'm in manufacturing. Like if I were just manufacturing and I didn't have any marketing or anything
Sure.
like that, then
That'd be fine.
Sure, like a co-man can get by on that, but a brand, no way.
Yeah.
So
He's
we
basically
wanted-
saying, somebody said, damn, he lost me. Let me explain what he's saying. A store, let's say 7-Eleven or GNC, they'll say, we'll buy these bars from you for 75 cents, and then we'll resell them for $2. Just making up a hypothetical. So they're going to make a lot of profit. Let's say this bar cost him 70 cents to make. So they're squeezing you. They're going to give you 5 cents profit per bar. Then they're going to take the bar and go sell it for triple. And they say, we're 7-Eleven. We have spent all this money on our brand. We've built these physical locations and these franchises. So one of the cool things that a man named Casanova, very famous, Giancarlo Casanova, one of the most famous people in history, he said, be the flame, not the moth. Be the candle, not the moth. And that's really kind of the philosophy that Tom's saying, is that what you chase moves away from you. That's what Casanova was saying. What you chase moves away from you. And what you deny and say, it moves closer. It goes, wait a second. And I found that in business networking, one of the worst things you can do is be at a conference, see somebody you want to talk to, and just buzz up to them and be like, oh my God, I've been wanting to meet you. You have to do it in a way where you are the flame and not just the moth that's actually pursuing. And so you did that, and it worked.
It worked really, really well. And one thing, just to make this more universal for people, going along with what you're saying, is you got to play the long game. So let's take the example of you really want to meet somebody that, let's say you want to meet Tai. And step one is not run up and introduce yourself to Tai. Step one is to, in an ideal scenario, you get somebody else who says, oh, Tai, you have to meet so-and-so, which, by the way, is exactly how I met Tai at Thrive. Somebody else went up to you and said, you need to meet Tom. And someone came up to me and said, you need to meet Tai. And so that's how we then came together. But both of us knowing at that moment where we met that, like, that's the power exchange, right? That other people were brokering that introduction. And so it's like, I get it. We may have been in the same place like a dozen times before that, but the setting wasn't right to meet as equals. And so you just don't meet. Most people, like, they can't bear it. They're convinced they're never going to meet again. So they just like rush up and they don't make a great first impression. I had to learn this the hard way. I was the guy that used to show up for the first date. These are true stories. I really wish they weren't. But I would show up on the first date with like flowers and poems.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yes.
Poems? You did
Yes.
poems?
I assure you this is real. And so because of that, there was very, very little getting laid. And so I was just like, this is a bad strategy,
That's
right?
actually interesting. So did the poem ever work on a date?
Not once.
Not
on a first date. You got to be kidding. It's suicide.
Did you do specific poems per date, or was it the same
Of
poem you just
course.
recycled?
No, my friend.
So you made it
I was
very-
doing it from a truly authentic place. Like I would see somebody, I'd be into them, and I would really want to like show that. And you see in movies that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to roll up with flowers.
Somebody
But
wrote ha 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 ha
Yeah.
poems. That's all they wrote.
that well said, my friend.
But
Well
now
said.
you're married.
Yeah, so literally-
what strategy did you convert to? Did you then start seeing a girl you like at Starbucks, like your future wife, and send a friend
To
over
say
to
you
them
should
and be
meet
like,
Tom.
you see that other guy getting coffee? You must meet him.
No, I ignored the shit out of her. And so
And that worked.
And it worked. So do you want to know what the very first line was that I said to the woman who would become my wife? Brace yourself for this one, Maya.
Okay, I'm
wanna
gonna
just-
show you
What?
the
I'm
earbuds.
ignoring you.
Remember, it worked. No, I said, where do you think you're going? Sit your ass down. And she
Okay.
sat, and then I knew.
Where were you? At Starbucks?
No, so we were.
would be weird.
She was filming something. We were actually on the back lot of Universal. So we had a relationship. Those weren't the first words I said to her as a person. They were the first words
Right.
I said to her in any sort of romantic advance.
Zach, what's been your best? Zach is a Tinder and Bumble guy. I've never met somebody off Tinder, but I'm going to because I want to start getting these good stories that Zach has. Zach, what is your best line that's gotten you married? Oh, no, you're not married. Sorry.
Honestly, for a while there, I would go, "Hey, do you want to arm wrestle?"
Okay.
That was
Maya
worked.
groaned. I kid you not.
It
You know
worked.
your line's not that good when women go,
I have evidence to prove the contrary. It did
You
work.
mean
I
that-
don't do
I'm
it
gonna-
now. This is 10 years ago, like on Match.com or something. This isn't last week.
Oh, you would email them.
That's,
Do you
yeah,
want
that's
to
back
arm
in the
wrestle?
day. Yes.
No, but I'm saying all the women that were saying yes, which women are saying yes to do you want to arm
Maya
wrestle?
down.
The ones that it's just a joke and it's a silly opener. It's not a legitimate request. Those are the ones.
We have two Leos here slightly offending each other.
Also, how are your morals? That works pretty well.
How are your
That's
morals
so
is actually
important.
kind of a funny joke that Zach says. I will tell you, I'm sure I can tell you the best pickup line in the world. If you learn about astrology and you walk up to a woman and you say, if you tell me what day of the year you're born, I'll tell you what career you should choose and everything about your future. Promise you, this is not a joke. People will turn around. Men don't like to talk about astrology, but for some reason, a lot of women do. So that's my tip. I'm not sure about the wrestling or sit down, but
No. Actually, I bring up, this is crazy. I'm on a crazy streak with guessing the signs on Tinder. Like
Yes.
I'll say, hello, or if it's Bumble, they have to message you first. And I write back immediately saying or guessing what their sign is.
Where'd you get that idea from?
Right now, Armand. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
Zach doesn't
I've been
wanna give
killing
me-
it off of guessing.
Trust me, it works.
They get all excited,
Even if you
too,
get
dude.
it wrong, people like to. I was reading one of the greatest, I think the smartest man of the modern world, and a lot of people disagree with me, but they've never actually read his words, was Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, just trust me, even though some of his theories of Oedipus complex and all these have been discredited, he's the founder of modern psychology. Anytime you found an entire subject in university, you're pretty smart. And he is a genius. Trust me. Read Civilization's Discontents. I've read, most of the philosophers, the great thinkers, and I've never read somebody like him. But one of the things that he says is who we fall in love with. So this is a good marketing tip if you're building a business, because a lot of people love Quest bars. You have people with a love relationship. Not everybody.
Ty's brother Ben.
My brother
has a
loves them.
relationship with Quest
He's
Bars.
definitely
Yeah, my brother
They're
is like a
serious
huge
about
evangelist.
it.
a disciple, an apostle for.
So you can use this in any this
Evangelist.
principle. What Sigmund Freud said is that in order to get love, he talked about the Bible where Jesus Christ said, "Love your neighbor, love your enemy as yourself." And Sigmund Freud said he didn't think that made sense, but because he said love is something valuable to you. You don't have that much time. You can't love everybody on the planet equally, right? You don't have time to help all 7 billion people. So he said humans have this decision to make, like who will you put your real love in terms of time, energy, effort, and so on. And he said, what do we look for? And it's very interesting. I was just rereading this yesterday. He said the ultimate thing we look for is something that reminds us of ourselves. Mm-hmm. People fall in love with themselves because Freud is one of the first people to talk about this narcissism. And so I think when you're marketing a bar like Quest Bar, or you're like Zach on Tinder, marketing himself on Tinder, there has to be some deep psychological, hey, that vibes with what I already believe. So marketing, like you said, you got these influencers who were pro bodybuilders. They weren't people who were 300 pounds overweight that were used to eating Reese's Pieces all the day. Because when they looked at Quest Bar, they didn't see themselves, their world. In this case, it wouldn't be literally themselves. It'd be their worldview. And so you start in marketing with people who already have your worldview. And they fall in love with you. And then, over time, you've been able to evangelize out into. So let's talk about this. First year, how many bars are you selling, roughly, a day?
Not a lot. So I don't know how the math works out, but we made less than $250,000 our first year.
So you make less than $250,000. And now your sales numbers aren't public now.
Yeah, we don't report them.
But you did
hundreds and hundreds of millions.
So now it went from 250,000 in the first year to conceivably, over 250 million, let's just say.
Definitely over that.
Yeah.
Well over that.
How did that feel? Did it freak you out? What'd you have to learn? Did you have to learn to get new bank accounts? Did you have to learn to get financial advisors? Let's talk. I want people listening to not only know about the quote unquote grind, because that's talked about a lot. Oh, you got to grind, but also about some of the cool stuff that happens. So what is some of the cool stuff that happens to your life so that people who are struggling now can see light at the end of the tunnel? Like, do you remember the day where you had $1 million and you could
steal a Quest bar, Zach?
Zach's stealing bars?
I'm opening it silently.
What are some of the cool events from like a financial standpoint that happened to you?
Well, the coolest was when we did sell a small piece of the company. You're hitting refresh on your bank account, and you go from a normal salary to all of a sudden refresh, and there's a lot of commas and zeros in your account. That was a pretty surreal moment because it wasn't like, it's 30 years of first I'm making 50,000, then 100,000, then 500,000, then $1 million, then 1.5. It was like literally I went from having a good but normal salary to like, holy fuck, I'm rich.
Yeah.
So, and in literally from one refresh to the next.
That's like Mark Cuban. If you've seen my video, Mark Cuban was over here playing basketball, and I was talking about getting rich, and he's like, I stayed up all night, didn't go to bed, refresh, and it went to $1 billion. He was a billionaire. A buddy, this week I was in Vegas with a friend of mine, and he's on the Forbes list. He's one of the richest. He's actually richer than Mark Cuban. And he's like...
I hope Mark Cuban isn't listening. He won't like that.
Mark didn't care. Mark got plenty of money. He basically, my friend's like, dude, he sold his company for $5 billion cash, and he owned basically all of it. So he made maybe $4.1 billion cash, and it was not U.S., so not too much taxes. So he goes, I forget the word. I was having sushi with them, and what was the word? It was just kind of what you said. It was kind of like unfathomable. He never went into it being like, okay, we're going to build this business. It's an online business. We're going to build this, and then we're going to sell it for $5,000 million, because that's what it was. $5 billion is 5,000 million. So what is the biggest myth of entrepreneurship and business ownership that you started out with in your brain in 2010? Warren Buffett says every year you must get rid of one long-standing belief. And I would add to that, every year you have to kick somebody out of your social circle that you used to hang out with and add a better person. Not better, but more congruent with your philosophy.
Better looking.
That's why I ended up with Zach after all these years. I've been going for looks, and Zach is the final culmination of looks. No, but Tom, what's the biggest myth you had to throw out in the last 7 years?
That there are limits to what you can figure out. So I think that now the guiding principle in my universe is I can learn to do anything. Anything. So, and when you look at the living embodiment of this, it's Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
So it goes in, I want to get to Mars, but no one's built a rocket. I guess I'll have to learn rocket science. Like,
yes.
That's so amazing to me. And when we went into it, we didn't think we were going to be marketers. That was it. We're going to market this protein bar. And when we realized we had to be our own manufacturers, my first reaction was panic. It was like, I don't know anything about that. And I thought that I was like a pretty hardened entrepreneur by that point. And looking at that was like, Jesus, I don't know anything about leasing commercial real estate. I don't know anything about the equipment. Like, you got to be joking. Engineering, I know nothing about it. The thought of wearing a hairnet every day and a lab coat and doing that was so beyond foreign to me. But literally in the span of I'm not kidding, 15 minutes, went from, okay, this is crazy and I don't want to do this, to it's the only way forward. And so am I really going to chicken out? And so, behavior is driven by identity, and my identity is not to back down from stuff like that. So we said, yeah, let's do it, and then figured it out. And that was sort of the last thing, is like, I'll never again say I can't figure something out. There's the vast, amount of knowledge out there I don't know. But once I turn my focus to it, I can make it my own. I can become excellent. I can become one of the best in the world at whatever I set my mind to.
So mentors, let's talk about that. Nobody, even though sometimes weird people argue with me on this, You don't need mentors. I have yet to meet somebody who did great things, who can't directly attribute at least some of their success, some of their direction from somebody who went before. I just posted a video on my Instagram, a little clip of me with Kobe Bryant after one of his last games of the season last year. I sat next to him on the bench, and then I went back in the locker room, and I asked him, like, do you have mentors? And he just immediately goes, oh, yeah, Ty. He goes, well, first of all, I had Magic Johnson. I had Michael Jordan. Then he mentioned Bob Iger, the Disney CEO. He brought up Phil Jackson. He had a lot. He kept going. And I said, why is that important? And he said, well, you have to learn from people who created greatness before you, or else you reinvent the wheel. I can't tell you how many people come up to me and they're like, dude, I invented a wheel. We can put it on a car and it will roll. It's going to be so cool. And here's this prehistoric stone. And they're like, you want to put this on your Ferrari? I'm like, dude, they invented a wheel a long time ago. They perfected it. Now they have badass, like Ferraris and Lambos have these badass tires. I drove a Bugatti. I don't have a Bugatti, but I drove one. And they have these tires. They're like 20, I forget what, they're massive tires. So I want to tell those people, yo, you could have just learned from the people who already created tires. Why are you going to waste 40 years of your life? So for you, even though you pioneered some stuff, there was nobody to fully look up to, whether authors, whether parents, whether business people that have made an impact on your life. And who are they?
Yeah, no question. So the most profound mentors in my life have been authors, for sure. I owe Stephen King, I know that's an odd answer. We were talking about this, a debt of gratitude, big time. In fact, if anybody listening right now, I'm going to hijack this interview. If you know Stephen King and can get him to come on my show, man, oh God, I really want to interview
He will
that guy.
give you a Quest bar.
I will give you
Have you ever tried
load of
reaching out
Quest
to him?
bars. Oh, I sent him an iPad with a custom message from me on it explaining how he touched my life and why it was so important. So I used to think I didn't like reading. And when I was like 12 or 13, my dad said, look, read this one more book and I'll never bother you again. If you don't like to read after this book, then I'm just going to leave it alone. And he handed me The Gunslinger, which is the first book in the Dark Tower series. And I read it, and to this day, I remember the opening line. And it showed me that everyone likes to read. You just don't know what you like to read about. And so that took me down. I read exclusively fiction for a very long time, but then getting good at reading and not feeling awkward anymore then led me to nonfiction. And so Joseph Campbell changed my life at a deep and fundamental level.
Okay.
Very much so. I will attribute much of my success in marriage to Joseph Campbell in the way that he made me conceptualize what it was. So that's been massive. My wife has been a huge mentor for me. My business partners were huge mentors for me. Between those three, like in face-to-face mentorship, those have been the most profound. But then I read not as much as you. Normally, like I can say I read more than everybody in the room, but fuck you for the book a day thing. So I'm a book a week kind of cat.
That's still good.
No, I'm
The average
stoked on it.
CEO reads 50 plus books per year. I have a company, MentorBox. I'm a co-founder. Go check out mentorbox.com because we help you read as fast as you possibly can. We have tools. We'll send you books in the mail, or you can log in and go through stuff. Stephen King, did you see Gunslinger? Did you see the Dark Tower?
did,
What'd you
I
think?
did.
Were you disappointed?
Steven, you know I love you, but the movie was an atrocity. And
You went
to
to
the
the
point,
premiere of that.
I went to the premiere. I got to meet Matt McConaughey back before the thing, and we walked over to his movie with him, and then he left before his movie. Dude, listen, Matt
McConaughey didn't want to watch.
No,
Dark
Matt,
Tower.
he literally, Matt McConaughey has a crazy life. He flew from Africa. He's shooting a movie in Africa. He said, don't tell anybody the name, but he's shooting a movie in Africa. He got on a jet, flew to New York City, did a meet and greet with me and a couple people. That's it.
Well, he walked the red carpet.
No, walked the red
Go to the
carpet,
premiere.
didn't watch a movie, got on a jet, and went back to Africa. I'm like,
Wow.
He's a hardworking guy, very smart. I asked him that question, too, about mentors and key dates, and he told me some interesting stuff. I haven't. Did I post that video yet? I have so many cool videos I have yet to post, like my Elon Musk conversation. But the movie, something was wrong. What was... Idris Elba is a badass. I love him. Matt McConaughey is a great actor. What did they do wrong with that movie?
Yeah, so the number of things that they did wrong are buckle in. It's not a story that you can jump around on. So it's whatever 7-book series. It's the magnum opus of his life, and they tried to hedge their bet. We don't know if this is going to be a series. We don't know if we should try to do it as a standalone film. So the opening film, it's all character driven. Like you've got to buy into the code that Idris Elba's character Roland Deschain lives by, which I was telling you, Maya, like it changed my life. Like the fact that I live by a code now, the code of ethics I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
like the
Zach
whole
told
notion
you
of
to check.
having a code of ethics came from the gunslinger. So like that really left an impression on me. So you've got to get behind like Roland of Gilead has this belief system by which he lives, which governs the code of his life. And so he goes into a town and there's this whole thing. If they ask for help, he has to give it. But once they ask, they can't take it back. And like the whole movie's predicated on that drama. And by the way, in the book, spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book, fucking stop listening right now. I know you hate that, but like a spoiler to the book. In the book, this guy is so hell-bent because it's a treatise on like ambition and determination. He is so determined to save the world and get to the Dark Tower that in the book, the gunslinger, he kills the little kid. The main kid in the book. And in the movie, of course, they chicken out. They don't show it, don't talk about it, nothing. I was mortified. So when they do the whole remember the face of your father, which in the book is amazing and in the movie was horrifying and embarrassing. And I could go on, but I won't.
So your biggest issue is
shot-
that they didn't kill a child.
No, my biggest thing is like, if you're going to do a treatise on what the themes in the book are about ambition, like how far are you willing to go?
Right.
And
Kill children.
Yes, and truthfully, it's done so well because he's holding this kid like I think if I remember right, it's like a cavern in a well in a cave or something, and he can't like get the kid back up, and like to save himself, he has to let the kid go, and so the kid looks at him, and it's that movie or the book doesn't have like a lot of magic in it, and in that moment, right, this kid from New York who like magically appears in this weird world, and you're like, what the hell is going on? How's this kid from New York? This is so weird. And the kid looks at him because he knows he has to let him go. And he says, don't worry, Roland. There are other worlds than these. And then he lets him go. And you're like, what does that mean? And that's like the end of the book. And so then like you're desperate. Oh, God, it's so good. So good.
I hope in the moment of death I can remember that line. I want to look at everybody that's surrounding my bed. Don't worry, everybody. There are other worlds than this.
Yes.
No, other worlds to explore, I thought you said. Well, I've learned a lot of things from this talk here. We're going to wrap up, but one of them is if I can get Tom to meet Stephen King, he will forever be grateful.
I will.
He will give us a Quest bar.
Yeah, you guys can count on
For
a
life.
deep
I want more
stash
than a damn
of
Quest bar. I
bars.
already got those at my house.
Hey, will you do a Neapolitan type of Quest bar that's like,
Vanilla
mint
chocolate strawberry.
chip, the raspberry?
The funny thing, from a production standpoint, that would be a nightmare.
Oh, really?
A nightmare. It's what's called extrusion. So,
bad.
or you could. So you have two types. We actually have two types of bars. These are just rolled flat, and so it's like all mush, and it's just pancaked out basically. So getting anything to be done like that, unless you're doing extrusion, but then extruding like 3 separate pieces and then putting them back together. Oh God.
I'm just
It'd
saying
be
Breyers
rough.
can do it.
Yeah,
with a lot of
they're-
sugar.
And hey, look, what did I just say like 10 minutes ago? I can figure anything out, right? So
Somebody said-
I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just asking, is it going to be worth the effort?
Someone commented, "Oh God, please help Zach out." I don't know what they're referring to. All right, let's one last little business thing before we wrap up. In terms of, did you raise capital?
Not in the beginning. So if I lost people with my earlier explanation, this is really going to confuse them. But we did some mezzanine debt.
Yep.
In the beginning, and that was helpful. That let us grow a little bit, but it was very small. It was like $1.4 million.
Just so you guys know what mezzanine, it's there's different bridge capital. Basically, when they were growing, they got a company to give them a loan. That's basically what
a
it
loan
means.
where it's like, hey, we get some equity, but if you
Yes.
pay it back really fast, we get less equity.
Yes.
So it's actually a really great device, by the way, especially if you can live with the, hey, let's say we don't pay them back ahead of schedule, and so the full equity goes to them. Are we still okay with that? And if you are, then it's tremendous. And so it was really, really great. Ended up being just a great ongoing relationship for us. Really, really like the people that we did that with. But that was it. So
How did you get it? Well, for somebody watching who wants to get mezzanine financing or get some startup capital, if you were doing it all over again, do you just start calling people? Do you go to friends
you certainly
of friends?
could. So with the success that we were having, we could have just cold called and we would have been fine. And so the joke in raising money is you can get money when you don't need it.
Yes.
And we didn't need it. And so it was very easy to get money. Back at the technology company, we needed money and it was hard as hell to get. So,
That's because be the flame, not the moth. It's kind of like,
like
the second
dating,
you
too.
get in a relationship, everybody wants to date you. You're like, wait a second, where were you 6 months ago? So that's a great. So capital came to you. It was a good experience. Just for some of you know, sometimes people have horrific experiences. Let's give this laptop away. Can I see this? We got a minute left on Instagram. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. The third person to answer this correctly wins, not the first. We're going to break it up a little bit. MacBook Air. So here is the question for you. Dun, dun, dun.
You want to look these over too?
Are these questions?
Just
So it's from your notes, Zach, about diabetes.
Well, just things I heard. I was like, oh, maybe we'll throw that out for a possible question. If you can read my scribbles.
This is a funny one. To get the laptop answer, the third person answer. What did Tom used to show up with on his first dates? Ready, set, go. What did Tom used to show up? 2 things he used to show up. All right, that's the first person I see. We're going to do the third. I see. Second is Boomer Johnson. Who's the third? Right there. Chase Christopher on Instagram.
all right,
Poems
well
and
played.
Flowers,
Yeah.
number 3. So I want to
don't
thank all
advise
of you
it.
for being here. This will be live on my podcast. Remember what Tom said. Where you should get your self-esteem from is not from always being right, but being from somebody who learns. The great Charlie Munger said, the secret to life is to be a lifelong learner. Be a learning machine and you'll do fine. All right? Thanks so much. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.